Welcome to the Geostrategic Podcast, your ongoing source for clear, structured updates on global geostrategic challenges. We explore the forces shaping global power, crisis hotspots, and how governments react so you stay informed with less effort. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really digging into something significant: Iran's recent and quite large acquisition of advanced military hardware from China.
Yeah, this isn't just a minor arms purchase.
Not at all. We're talking reports of potentially 40 J-10C Vigorous Dragon fighter jets. That's a serious number.
And it's not just the jets. It seems to include advanced drones, various missile systems.
And possibly even these HQ-9B air defense systems, the ones often compared to Russia's S-400, sometimes even rated higher.
Exactly. It looks like a comprehensive upgrade package. And importantly, this isn't happening in a vacuum. It's very much part of that 2021 Strategic Cooperation Agreement between Iran and China.
Right. The framework was already there.
And you have to see it against the backdrop of, well, problems with expected Russian arms deliveries, delays, complications.
And Iran's own pressing need, right? Their air force is getting pretty old.
Desperately old in some areas. So this deal addresses multiple issues for Tehran simultaneously.
Okay, so there's a lot to unpack here. The big questions for us, and probably for you listening, are how does this actually shift the military balance there in the Middle East? Why this move away from Russia, their traditional supplier, towards China? What do these specific systems like the J-10C and the air defenses actually allow Iran to do differently?
And what does it mean for others? Israel, the Gulf states.
Exactly. And looking bigger picture, does this signal China planting a bigger military footprint in the region? And of course, how might the U.S. and its allies react? Let's get into it. Let's start right there with the why. Why this pivot? Why now? Moving away from Russia seems like a pretty big deal for Iran.
It is a big deal. And the core driver is really the state of Iran's air force. It's frankly obsolete in many ways.
You mentioned older Russian jets, even American planes from before the revolution.
That's right. Stuff dating back to the Shah. And recent events, particularly some very effective Israeli airstrikes, have really laid bare the vulnerabilities in their air defenses. They needed a serious upgrade, and they needed it fast.
So urgency was key.
Absolutely. And that's where the Russia factor becomes critical. You know, there was a lot of talk about Iran getting Su-35s from Russia.
The flanker EV, yeah.
Yeah.
That seemed like a done deal for a while.
It did. But it seems to be, well, stuck, caught in what you might call geopolitical limbo. There were reports that planes initially meant for Egypt were offered.
I remember that.
But then things got complicated, maybe linked to Iran supplying drones to Russia for the war in Ukraine. It created frustration in Tehran.
So Russia became less reliable, bogged down maybe?
Less reliable, less predictable. And that inconsistency, that focus shifting, perhaps because of Ukraine, really pushed Iran to look for alternatives more seriously.
Okay, so Russia's perceived unreliability opens a door. But why China specifically? What makes Beijing able or willing to step in so decisively?
Well, several things make China an attractive alternative right now. First, Beijing seems much more open to selling advanced platforms like the J-10C without, let's say, the same level of immediate geopolitical baggage Russia carries.
Less scrutiny, maybe?
Potentially less risk of secondary sanctions compared to dealing with Russia right now, which is a huge factor for Iran. Plus, China generally offers more predictable delivery schedules. They have the industrial capacity.
And the support system to go with it.
A more competitive support ecosystem, yes. And China's been quite open about it. Their Ministry of National Defense spokesman, Jiang Bin, basically said Beijing is willing to share the achievements of its military tech with friendly nations. That's a pretty clear signal.
A signal Iran clearly heard.
And you have to remember China's wider influence. We heard that quote from the Israeli Consul General, Ravit Ber, saying essentially China is the only country with real leverage over Iran because they buy so much of their oil.
Iran would collapse if China didn't buy its oil. That's a stark assessment of dependency.
It is, and it really underscores how China's economic power translates into strategic influence, maybe eclipsing Russia's in Tehran's current calculations.
So this isn't just Iran shopping around. It's a pragmatic calculation based on Russia's current situation and China's readiness to step up, pushing Iran deeper into Beijing's sphere of influence for more than just jets.
Precisely. It's a strategic realignment driven by necessity and opportunity.
All right, let's get into the hardware itself.
Yeah.
What do these J-10Cs, the Vigorous Dragons, actually bring to the table for Iran? What capabilities are we talking about?
The J-10C represents a significant generational leap for them. It's a 4.5 generation fighter. Think of it as bridging the gap between older jets and fifth-gen stealth aircraft.
So multi-role, air-to-air ground attack.
Yes, very much multi-role. Some regional analysts have even called it the Rafale killer, which gives you an idea of its perceived capabilities. It has advanced aerodynamics that Canard Delta wing setup gives it excellent maneuverability.
Fly-by-wire, powerful engine.
A powerful WS-10B turbofan, digital fly-by-wire controls, yes. But the real step up is probably the avionics. It's equipped with an AESO radar active electronically scanned array.
Which means better tracking, multiple targets, harder to jam.
Exactly, much more capable than older radar types. And crucially, it's designed to carry advanced weaponry, particularly the PL-15E beyond visual range missile.
Okay, the PL-15E. Tell us about that. Why is it such a big deal?
The range. The export version is reported to have a range of around 145 kilometers. That puts it firmly in the same category as the latest AIM-120 AIMRAAM variants the U.S. provides to allies like Israel and the Gulf states.
So Iran could potentially engage targets from much further away, beyond visual range capability.
That's key. It allows the J-10C pilot to potentially detect and fire on an enemy aircraft well before they themselves are detected or within the enemy's missile range. It's about controlling the engagement, getting the first shot.
A standoff capability they largely lacked before.
Effectively, yes, at this level. It means they could hold potentially superior enemy aircraft, like maybe an F-35 or advanced F-16s, at risk from a distance. That changes the tactical equation significantly.
And we saw the J-10C debut with Pakistan, right? There were those claims, contested sure, but claims nonetheless, about downing Indian fighters using the PL-15E.
That's right. Pakistan made those claims. Whether entirely accurate or not, the psychological impact on planners in places like Tehran is real. It suggests the platform can compete.
Give them confidence, perhaps.
It certainly adds to the perceived credibility of the system. And remember, it's not just the jets. Those reports about the HQ-9B surface-to-air missile systems arriving.
Right after the ceasefire with Israel in June, you mentioned, and paid for with oil, according to some sources.
That's what Arab intelligence sources apparently claimed, yeah. The timing is interesting. These HQ-9Bs are considered very capable long-range air defense systems, comparable, maybe even superior in some aspects, to Russia's S-400.
So they're bolstering both offensive air power with the J-10C and defensive capabilities with the HQ-9B simultaneously.
It looks like a coordinated effort to modernize across the board, specifically targeting their perceived vulnerabilities in the air domain.
And it all seems aimed squarely at rebalancing the strategic equation with their main regional rivals, Israel, Saudi Arabia, the UAE, who are all investing heavily in advanced Western systems.
It's clearly an attempt to narrow that technological gap, to create a more credible deterrent, and perhaps increase their own operational freedom.
Okay, let's widen the lens then. How does this transfer really start to reshape the military balance across the Middle East? What are the ripple effects?
Well, looking at Israel first, the impact is pretty direct. The J-10Cs add a new layer of complexity for Israeli military planners.
How so? Does it make potential strikes harder?
It could. Planning strikes against Iranian strategic sites like maybe Fordo or Natanz potentially becomes riskier and more costly if Iran has a credible fleet of 4.5-gen fighters that can actively contest the airspace.
Threatening the strike package itself, or maybe support aircraft like tankers or AWACS.
Potentially both. It forces Israel to factor in a more capable aerial opponent, not just ground-based air defenses. It changes the risk assessment.
Does it increase the chance of actual aerial clashes?
I think it does raise that possibility, especially if Iran were to, say, forward deploy some of these J-10Cs closer to conflict zones, maybe in Syria. That definitely increases the risk of miscalculation or direct engagement. It would certainly test deconfliction protocols.
Okay, so more complex for Israel. What about the Gulf Arab states? Saudi Arabia, the UAE, how are they likely viewing this?
You can bet they're watching very closely. The most likely response, an acceleration of their own defense procurements.
So fueling the regional arms race further.
Almost certainly. They'll be looking at more advanced fighters, maybe fifth-gen jets if they can get them, better missile defense, advanced electronic warfare capabilities, anything to maintain their perceived edge.
And does a stronger Iranian Air Force provide better cover for its regional proxies? Hezbollah, the Houthis.
That's another significant implication. A more capable Iranian Air Force could, in theory, provide better air cover for proxy operations or supply lines, potentially emboldening groups like Hezbollah or the Houthis to act more aggressively under that perceived Iranian air umbrella.
So it's not just state-on-state balance, it affects the proxy dynamics too.
Absolutely. It changes calculations across multiple levels of conflict in the region.
So summing up this part, the J10C deal looks set to genuinely recalibrate military dynamics, increase tensions, make air operations more complex, and likely spur further arms buying across the Middle East.
That seems like a fair assessment, yes. It's a significant development with wide-ranging consequences.
All right, let's think even broader now. Does this deal signal more than just arms sales? Could it be a stepping stone towards a larger Chinese military presence or deeper influence in the region?
I think it absolutely fits into China's wider strategy. Beijing is clearly looking to expand its role in the Middle East beyond just being a major energy customer.
We're seeing more political involvement, infrastructure investment.
Exactly. Political, military infrastructure. They're positioning themselves as a major power broker, an alternative perhaps to the U.S. and Europe. Look at their role in the Saudi-Iran reconciliation last year. That was a major diplomatic coup.
Facilitated by Beijing.
And they're using platforms like the China Arab States Cooperation Forum, BRICS, the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, very effectively to deepen these ties.
You mentioned the Iranian defense minister being at the SCO summit. More than just a photo op.
Oh, definitely. His presence, Aziz Nasirzadeh, signaled these open procurement channels were active. It subtly positions China as a key arms supplier in Eurasia, potentially challenging Russia's traditional role in providing high-end military gear to some of these countries.
And China often promotes this idea of non-interventionist diplomacy, pragmatic relationships. Does that resonate in the region compared to Western approaches?
It seems to, particularly when coupled with things like China's vocal support for the Palestinian cause. It contrasts with some Western policies and arguably enhances China's appeal and perceived legitimacy for certain regional actors.
So how does the U.S. see all this? Washington must be watching this Iran-China deal closely.
Oh, undoubtedly. From the U.S. perspective, this is a clear sign of China's growing assertiveness as a global arms supplier, directly challenging Western dominance in a strategically vital region.
So we can expect a reaction. Sanctions, maybe.
That's the typical playbook. Potential new sanctions targeting the specific Chinese and Iranian entities involved in this deal are certainly a possibility, even likely, as a way for Washington to signal disapproval and try to deter future transfers.
This really does raise that bigger question then. How does this specific arms deal, this deepening Iran-China connection, fit into the larger shifts we're seeing in the global order?
Right. If you connect the dots, this isn't just about jets and missiles anymore, is it?
Seems like much more is at play.
It really does. If China manages to significantly reshape dynamics in the Middle East and potentially elsewhere through moves like this, we could be witnessing a fundamental transformation of the international system.
How so? What would that look like?
Well, you could see the long-standing influence of the U.S. and its Western allies in the Middle East genuinely diminish, potentially being replaced, or at least significantly challenged, by a network led by China focusing on economic ties, but also increasingly security and diplomatic partnerships.
A more multipolar Middle East, reflecting a more multipolar world.
Exactly. A more entrenched multipolarity. That could mean shifts in supply chains, trade routes, even the emergence of different models of governance or regional cooperation that don't necessarily align with Western norms.
Could China's involvement bring stability in some ways, like the Saudi-Iran deal seemed to?
That's the complex part. Yes, their engagement might promote stability in certain instances, acting as a mediator where others perhaps couldn't or wouldn't. But it could also sharpen existing rivalries, especially between major powers like the U.S. and China playing out within the region. It could intensify that great power competition.
So not just jets and missiles.
Not at all. It's really about the slow, steady construction of a potentially different global system, more pluralistic, certainly more competitive, and that's something that's going to shape geopolitics for decades.
A really powerful perspective. And it definitely leaves us, and you listening, with something to think about. As this security landscape evolves, driven partly by deals like this, how will other regional players adapt their strategies? What new alliances, or maybe even new rivalries, could emerge from this ongoing shift? If you found this discussion valuable, please do like, share, and subscribe to the Geostrategic Podcast. We aim to bring you more in-depth analysis on the topics shaping our world. Stay informed, stay ahead, and stay tuned for the next episode.